top of the hour. Been teasing it all day. My guy, the best sports gambler that I know, my guy, Zack Gray, joins the show. Zach, what's going on, man?
Jay Smith, it's a beautiful Thursday, and college football is
weird.
back.
Dude, it could be raining right now, and it'd still be a beautiful Thursday. Just because, as you said, college football's back.
I've been annoying everyone today, like talking about Colorado, North Dakota State, like completely obscure FBS, FCS games tonight that I am just pumped for.
Is the Colorado, North Dakota State game obscure, though? I feel like everyone's going to be tuned in, even though Colorado went 4-8 last year, and usually people wouldn't care.
Well, everyone is a hater with Colorado, you included. So it's like I have to be the supporter of the Ohio area because I don't know anyone else that likes Colorado.
Fair enough. I don't know anyone that really likes him either. That's not true. They're like, I don't know. Bleacher Report seems to really like him. Nike clearly likes him. I don't know if you saw that.
That was a sick campaign. That was a really good way to introduce partnership.
It was, but I'm sitting there. I'm like, why are they signing a quarterback that went 4-8 last year?
Oh, here we go.
I think it's a fair question. Joined by my guy, Zack Gray, professional sports gambler, just does a fantastic job. But I'm just saying, I feel like that's something that we should note. Even though to be fair, he probably will be the number one overall pick.
Yeah, they have 2 top 10 draft picks on their roster, and we just hate them.
I don't know, man. I don't know. I'm just not. I don't think I hate them. I'm just not a believer in them eventually being good at some point. I think that's a little more accurate.
Well, we'll see. But I just am excited for this little appetizer. Today. If you check my Twitter, I have a play for tomorrow as well. So I'm kind of getting into the rhythm tonight, and then tomorrow is when we'll see, the grapevine come out.
What are the plays that you like for tonight? I know you sent me a couple, and I don't want to go off script. So what are the plays that you like for really just all the college football games this weekend, including tonight and tomorrow?
Yeah, so there was a time where I was leaning Colorado. That line, I think, I haven't checked it today, but I think it got all the way up to like 10 and a half. There's some injuries for North Dakota State, I believe. I think their best player is hurt, but so nothing there. But tomorrow night there's a play, if you go to the Twitter, but 2 plays that I really, really like this weekend are Troy -8.5 and Penn State -8. I know you have your thoughts about Penn State, so I don't know where you want to start, but those are my 2 plays. If you don't check my Twitter, if you don't go to my Patreon, those are the 2 to get introduced to what I do over here. So yeah, Penn State or Troy, which one you want to talk about?
Let's start with Penn State because you're right. I'm not a Penn State guy. I think that they're overrated every year. But with that being said, I don't think that West Virginia is very good. When the line came out and they were favored by 8, I was like, that felt low. So I'm with you. I like Penn State to cover that. But when it comes to Troy, I got to be honest, don't know anything about Troy. So if you want to enlighten us on that after you give me your thoughts on the Penn State game.
Yeah, so the Penn State thing, I feel like it's super trendy right now to like be on the West Virginia bandwagon, and I kind of understand it. Garrett Green, starting to become a pretty darn good college quarterback. Only had 5 turnovers last year. They're returning some guys. Their backfield's good. Like, they're a good team. They're a solid Big 12 team. But at the end of the day, like, I don't think they even come close to the talent level of Penn State. And, this is the same coach that was on the hot seat just last season before they went on their run. The fans wanted him gone. Like legitimately, they wanted him fired in the middle of the season after their start. And now all of a sudden I'm supposed to buy into the fact that they're going to make a run for the Big 12, make a run for the playoff. No. Penn State has a new offensive coordinator. I don't want to butcher his name. I believe it's Colton-Nicky. And, he's coming in. I don't think that it fit last year with Aller. It's make or break for him if he wants to, earn some money, a high round draft pick in the NFL. It's time to get going. Their backs are awesome. We all know Singleton. But yeah, it just all lines up for me, and my projection backs it up that this game is going to be at least 10 plus. I don't see how, I mean, the road crowd maybe, but still, Penn State's used to playing in the big house, and Ohio State, like the road crowd isn't really going to be a big impact for me. But yeah, I just think that there's too much hype on West Virginia, and I'm kind of playing against the hype in the market.
Completely agree with you once again, joined by my guy, Zack Gray, professional sports gambler. Clearly, he knows his stuff. I'm with you. Like, let's be just brutally honest about Penn State. They're more talented than everybody not named Georgia, Ohio State, Oregon. Like, they are who the college football playoff expansion was made for. The team that's not quite good enough to be top 4, but they're like 7, 8, 9. Like, that's who Penn State is. That's who I expect them to be. And look, when you're more talented, especially in the trenches, which is where I think Penn State also has an advantage over West Virginia, I think they're just going to kind of move West Virginia around. They'll win by 2 touchdowns. That's kind of how I feel about it.
My projections have the final score being 33-19. So, not a crazy, I mean, Penn State's not going to come out and whip them. Like, they're not going to beat them, 42-10, but I think they'll pull away.
Like late touchdown cover. Yeah, exactly. Exactly like that.
Hopefully not with 4 seconds left in the game, though.
Hopefully not. Let's move to Troy, because you texted me about that one specifically, wanting to talk about it, and it just shows why the service you offer in terms of the sports gambling is great. So if you want to elaborate on that, I will give you the floor.
I think this is another me going against the market and the hype, because we just watched Nevada play SMU down to the wire. Choate is their new coach, and he's a good coach. And there's just a lot of like course correction on Nevada. Like, people thought they were going to win like 1 or 2 games this year, and I still think they only win 1 or 2 games. I think we see this a lot. Early in the season with these bad teams. Like, their opponents are trying to figure themselves out throughout the season. Nevada's playing with their hair on fire already. Like, they know they're outmatched. They know they're outclassed, while other teams are trying to feel it out. I just think that SMU game last week, we're going to look back on that and say, dang, what happened there? SMU's pretty good, and Nevada's got 1 win. And my projections have Troy winning by like 17, and the line's 8.5. So it's an automatic play for me. Troy is always talented. I know they lost a lot of guys, and I think they only have 4 total returning starters this year. But they're always talented. They're in a recruiting hotbed down there. I think they're just going to put it on them.
Joined by Zack Gray. Follow him on Twitter at ZG the Grapevine for all of these wonderful college football plays. He'll have NFL plays too whenever the NFL season starts. But that line opened at like 6, right? And then it moved to 8.5, correct?
So good segue, Jonathan. That was James Madison.
There it is. That's the third one. Which James Madison's perfect for these IU people, because Kurt Signetti coming from James Madison. I love Kurt Signetti. Jeez, man. He always makes me smile. He always has audio for me to play whenever he speaks, which is great.
I'm glad he's in the Big Ten.
I like him. Like, I gotta be honest, I didn't watch a ton of James Madison last year, to be fair. But the way that he talks, man, like he expects to win. And that's where I think it really starts with anything. If you have guys showing up and they're like, God, it's going to take us a few years, it's a red flag for me. Like, I want guys who show up and expect to win immediately. And Signetti definitely does that. He won it. James Madison, from my understanding, they're kind of in a good place to recruit. They're traditionally a pretty good program. You've got them to cover. You got them at -6. Now the line's up to -8, 8.5. What did you see with them? Why do you like JMU this year?
Yeah, it's something that we talked about off air. I just kind of wanted to highlight it, to kind of highlight the services that the Patreon offers. So I released my projections on Tuesday when JMU was -6. So if I release my projections on Tuesday and I got a -6, it's all the way up to -8 now. You got 2.5 points of CLV, closing line value. So that's just kind of one of the things that I think my service offers. We get in the market early at the best line and kind of, have that cushion there of what the public now thinks and what's being bet, handle, hold, all that stuff. So just a value that I wanted to relay. But like, we have to stop acting like James Madison wasn't an FCS powerhouse for years and then came up to the FBS and immediately won. And I think, you can draw a lot of comparisons with James Madison and North Dakota State. North Dakota State has had like 4 or 5 coaches since they started their run, and all they do is win. So I think it's just one of those programs where we see Signetti leave, and we automatically assume like rebuild or down. I still think they win 9-10 games this year. I think they have the roster to do it. They're talented, and they have some guys on the defense that I think are like future NFL players. So like a lot of, you can tell early on with not a lot of data in the first part of the season, you can tell it's a lot of, projections, obviously, but it's also kind of, the market isn't settled in yet. So you can kind of find those holes off public opinion and off the vibe of each team to kind of get those plays in like I have.
Yeah. And look, I say it all the time before you come on that you're one of the better, you are the best sports gambler that I know. And that's with all the respect to the Sack Man who does a lot of gambling stuff on Dan's show. Once again, joined by my guy, Zack Gray. Follow him on Twitter at ZG the Grapevine. You can find his Patreon in the link in his bio. All right, ZG. So yesterday, first off, before I move on, do you have any other picks that you want to go into?
Yeah, no more picks. They're all on my Twitter. You can find every projection for every game. But I did want to highlight, starting today through the end of October, 40% off all of my college football and NFL picks on Patreon. So if you go to my Twitter, sign up, you get 40% off each month. You get both every week. So had to plug myself, Jay Smith. Come on.
Of course. Yeah. I get it. That's part of why if you want. It's nice. So yesterday, I officially locked in my predictions for the upcoming college football season. I've got Oregon winning the Big Ten. And
don't hate it.
I love Ohio. Like, I don't love Ohio State. I love their team this year. I think they're awesome. But that game being in Eugene, when they play each other, I think that's the difference that allows them to be, undefeated in the Big Ten. And so I took them to win it. I do obviously have Ohio State making the at-large bids. But here's my question, and this is something that I haven't heard anyone else talk about. Notre Dame not being in a conference, you know how, like, there's a group of 5 team that makes the playoff? Mm-hmm. Would Notre Dame not be that team?
I don't think so. They treat Notre Dame. By the way, I am not a big Notre Dame guy, but they give Notre Dame a ton of like weird privileges because they're independent. So like there's scenarios like the reason why they are okay with not getting a bye is because there's scenarios where they're playing the easiest schedule through the playoffs as a 5 seed. But I don't think it counts as a group of 5 team. But yeah, I just had to get that off because Notre Dame's like, oh, poor me, I can't get a bye, knowing darn well exactly why they chose not to.
Yeah, that's very much how. And like they do get a bye. They don't have to play a conference championship game. Like that is the bye. And so I was sitting down and I was making my predictions and I was like, who's my group of 5 team? Could it be Notre Dame? Like, is that how that works? My group of 5 team though is the University of Texas at San Antonio Roadrunners.
Wow, I love that.
That is like I'm sitting here, I'm looking, and everyone's like Boise State. And I'm like, Boise State lost their starting quarterback. He's gone. Go Hogs, by the way. He's going to start for Arkansas this year. And it's like, oh well, they had this big time former 5-star transfer come in. And it's like, no, that guy's the backup. So people are loving Boise State. I've seen some people on Memphis, a little bit of Appalachian State as well.
Liberty too. Those are the big ones I've heard too.
And I'm looking at UTSA and I'm like, Jeff Traylor has shown up and done nothing but win there consistently. 12-2 in 2021, 11-3 in 2022, 9-4 last year. Hey, I'm willing to bet that he wins 10 games this year coming out of the American. So I like UTSA. Who is kind of your off the board playoff pick for this year?
So I've already kind of mentioned it, but I do think that JMU has a chance to kind of keep it up. Okay. Like I think they're severely underrated. I think they're as talented as any of the teams that you just said. I think they can certainly do it. It's just a matter of seeing this new coach kind of be consistent and go through it. I like JMU, and I think if I had to pick from the original group we just said, I think UTSA would be on the board, but I like Liberty. I do. There's something about Liberty, like I know we saw them last year get destroyed by Oregon, and it could be perceived as a one hit wonder type of thing. But I think they have just gotten better and better and better every year. So I think Liberty's a candidate to be like the next Boise State.
Joined by Zack Gray. Follow him on Twitter at ZG the Grapevine for all of your winning gambling picks. So Liberty's interesting because they kind of rose to power when Hugh Freeze was there. He's not there anymore. And look, whether you like Hugh Freeze or not, he's a good football coach. He's not there.
He coached from a hospital bed. You have to like him.
Yeah, that's so true. It's so true. And the thing with my thing with Liberty, and you were like, I don't know what it is about Liberty, and the answer is they're incredibly soft schedule. Like they're probably gonna go undefeated. They don't really play anybody, so they're probably the safe pick. I think the other, like, did you ever make a prediction and you like surprise yourself because you realize that because I said this, therefore like this other thing has to happen? Has that ever like happened to you?
Yeah, where you like it's going through a season or something, and like you're like, oh crap, like this team that I like has to do this because I have this predict. Yeah, definitely, and that's a bad spot to be in, and I find myself in that spot an awful lot with betting.
So I think the Big 12 only gets one team into the playoff. And I think it's Utah, but you could tell me that it's going to be Arizona or Kansas State or even Kansas. But like I was sitting here and I was like, I don't know. I think that the Big 10 gets 3 teams in: Oregon, Ohio State, Penn State. I think the SEC, I think I've got them as 4 teams that get in: Georgia, Alabama, Texas, and Ole Miss. I think Notre Dame gets in, and I think the ACC gets 2 teams in Miami and Clemson. And I'm sitting here, I'm looking at the Big 12. You grimaced a little bit when I said that. Do you not like Clemson or Miami?
I just think there's more of a chance that that a fourth non-Big Ten team gets in over a non-ACC champ team.
That's totally fair. So you think that Michigan would have a better chance of getting in over Clemson?
Yeah, if it was similar resumes in terms of record and conference play, I think the nod goes to the Big Ten in this new system almost every time at this point.
That's totally fair. I wouldn't mind that. But even if that happens, like no second Big 12 team, which feels really weird because I thought coming into it, like, okay, like every conference would probably get 2, SEC and Big 12, or Big 12. I mean, the Big 10, like they probably have 3 or 4. But I don't know, man. Like when I look at the Big 12, they're all so even. Like they are the AFC South of college football, where they're like, I've got some question marks. I think a lot of the teams are really similar. I think like we look at that conference and we come out of it and we're like, geez, like everyone's 9-3.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
You can kind of feel that push and pull from the media and the Big 12 conference. Like it's on the side of like everyone's going to disregard the Big 12. They're going to cannibalize each other. There's no great teams. There's no good teams. And then you have the Big 12 trying to brand itself as the deepest conference in football, as the most competitive top to bottom conference in football. I think that's been an interesting offseason storyline on how we're going to view the Big 12 this season. I don't think anyone really knows. But yeah, I think that something to look out for, just like off storylines and media purposes, is how the Big 12 is perceived throughout the season. Because if it's, just right now, knowing the ACC, knowing the Big 12, if it was similar resumes and you had to fill one of those last spots in the playoffs, are you picking the Big 12? I think you're picking a Clemson or a Miami.
Yep, that's exactly how I feel about it. Oh man, I'm so ready, man. Like, I would consider myself once again joined by my good friend Zack Gray. Follow him on Twitter at ZG the Grapevine for all of your gambling selections. So I would consider myself a bit of a college football purist. Like I don't love
really.
Yeah. And but like I get it. Like we want to be more inclusive. We want for more teams to feel like they have success. Everybody gets a trophy. I get it. But I got to be honest though. Like I'm excited to debate with people about why 9-3 so and so should get in over 10-2 so and so. I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
That's way more fun than trying to pick 4 teams out of 5 great teams in a 4-team set. I would rather debate the edges than the top. The top deserves to play, and that shouldn't even be a question. The debate should be around the edges, and I think we kind of finally found that.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. It's going to be interesting. I have to ask you. You don't have to give bets, but just who you think wins, because we've got some pretty big marquee games coming up this week on the schedule. I can't wait. It gets started tonight, 7:30, Arkansas against Arkansas at Pine Bluff. I know that's one that everyone has circled. Can you believe that there are people in the chat here on YouTube who thought that I didn't know who Matt Jones was? I can't believe it. But anyway, we don't have to talk about that. Seriously, though, Colorado, North Dakota State tonight. I know which way you're leaning, but you can go ahead and tell the people.
Yeah, I think Colorado wins. I don't think 10, 11, 12, kind of the margin of victory. But yeah, I don't.
Are you concerned at all about just like the newness of the roster? Like it's 5 new offensive linemen. Like part of why I like for North Dakota State to cover tonight is just because like they're a pretty solidified unit. Like there hasn't been a lot of change. Whereas like for Colorado, it's a lot of these guys' first games playing for Colorado.
Yeah, I think specifically on the offensive line is where we will see a pretty big improvement. They did cycle out a ton of players on both sides of the ball. That's the Dion way. But I think they're better. I think they're just more talented. I think they're bigger. I think they're more physical, specifically on the offensive line. Jordan Seaton, the true freshman, is going to start. Like Ohio State wanted him bad. Like Georgia wanted him bad. Like, he's a true freshman, but he's clearly better than what they had last year. So I don't think we see too much difference, offense, defense as a whole. But I think we kind of see the play elevate a little bit because of the line play and, being able to kind of, control the clock, all the cliches is kind of just going to help the team in every aspect, defense as well. So I think you'll see that slight improvement and it'll make a big difference.
Okay. Once again, joined by my good friend, Zack Gray. Follow him on Twitter at ZG the Grapevine for all of your gambling selections. Clemson, Georgia, that game noon on Saturday. Georgia pretty easily, right?
Yeah, Georgia by at least 2 touchdowns. I think Clemson's going to surprise some people this year. I think they're still really talented, but I just don't know. Dabo just doesn't seem to have that spark anymore. I think they'll be good. I think they'll be in the mix for the playoff. But Georgia, I feel like Georgia's just kind of Georgia.
Yeah, look, the only guy who's proven that he can beat Georgia is working for College Game Day now. Yep. And so it's tough to pick against them. The issue with Clemson is Dabo Swinney refuses to use the transfer portal. Like that's until that problem is fixed, they'll be somewhere between the 10th and 17th best team in college football. Are you at all interested in South Dakota State and Oklahoma State? Like South Dakota State, one of those kind of power FCS schools. Does that game interest you at all?
Yeah, I picked a couple of those games to project out of my projections, just some of the notable ones, and that was one of them that I had. I have Oklahoma State winning, by like 12 in my projections. I find it interesting though. Oklahoma State is like a flagship program in our lifetime. Like they are always at least baseline good and can beat someone. So I think it's just kind of crazy now that we're seeing the lines come out for these major FBS teams versus FCS teams, and they're kind of small. I remember like years ago where there was, some of those games were in the 60s on the spread. Like it just feels like the gap's closing a little bit. I don't know why, but it just feels like that gap's closing. They have Ollie Gordon. Gordon, one of the best, and they're only like what is the spread, like 11 or something like that?
Something like that, yeah.
That's crazy.
I think part of it is like the transfer portal. I'm sure we've got guys transferring down to play at these FCS schools at a little bit of a higher rate, but I'm sure that's part of it. Miami plays Florida at 3:30. Miami, last time I checked, only favored by like 2.5, which kind of surprised me. I like Miami. A lot of people do, which makes me nervous to like Miami. My boss, though, that dude's crazy.
I've got Florida.
Really?
Yeah. Not by much. I think it's going to be wire to wire. I wouldn't be shocked if Miami wins, but just trust in my data. I have Florida by a point.
Okay, fair enough. Notre Dame, Texas A&M, that game's a big one. I think Notre Dame goes 11-1 this year, and I think that their one loss comes on Saturday to Texas A&M.
Yeah, been saying it. The market tells us what they think now. Notre Dame started out favored in this game. It flipped all the way to Texas A&M -3. Not sure what it's at now, but Notre Dame losing their best offensive lineman doesn't help. But I also, even with him, I just did not see Notre Dame winning this game. Mike Elko's got a bunch of talent. He's a great coach. Texas A&M isn't, little sisters of the poor. They still have dudes, very, very much one of the most talented rosters in football still. And I don't like Notre Dame, so it's a little biased.
I'm right there with you. Last question for you, Zach, and I'll let you go. Once again, joined by my good buddy, Zack Gray. Follow him on Twitter. Seriously, gives out a ton of winners every week for football at ZG The Grapevine. Check out his Patreon to get all those picks. $15 a month, right? For all of them?
So, I think it's $25 for college football, $25 for NFL. And it's $45 for both. But again, you go and use the code ZGTG, and you can get 40% off the both package, and you're sitting somewhere around $27 a month.
Okay. USC at LSU. That is the Sunday night football game. I'm fascinated by it. I think Brian Kelly is overrated as a coach. Not saying he's a bad coach. I just don't think he's as good as everyone else does. Lincoln Riley, on the other hand, that's the best offensive mind in college football. I think USC is massively underrated this year because when Lincoln Riley's your coach, he scored points with Kyler Murray, Jalen Hurts, Caleb Williams, obviously, Baker Mayfield when he was the OC. No matter who plays quarterback for Lincoln Riley, his teams score points. With that being said, I do like for LSU to win.
I knew you were going to do the switch. I'm gonna leave this one on a cliffhanger. I have a play on that game. Who knows what side I'm on unless you go to the Twitter. So, yeah.
I like it. Zach, thanks for your time on camera, which is great. Rocking that's an awesome Pacers hat. I need you to send me the link for that because that thing looks pretty sick.
I got it at Gainbridge.
Oh, nice. When you went to watch LeBron?
No, it's I went to watch
Cleveland.
The Knicks the first time. Yeah.
Oh, okay. There you go. Zach. Thanks for your time, man. You were great as always.
Thanks, Jay Smith.
See ya. That's my guy, Zack Gray, the one and only. Follow him on Twitter at ZG The Grapevine. Seriously, he puts out a ton of winners.